Hello, good evening. A mother from Caerphilly, whose son was killed in a dog attack last year, has shared the impact of her devastating loss for the first time. Speaking exclusively to Wales at 6, Emma Whitfield says she's living through hell after her 10-year-old son Jack was mauled to death by a powerful American bully-type animal at a house in the town. And in a week which has seen another serious dog attack just streets away from where Jack died, Emma is today calling for change. She's been speaking with our correspondent Hannah Thomas about her campaign for greater protection and tougher sentences.
Jack Liz was the little boy who brought so much joy. His mother hopes he's resting in peace a year after he was killed by a dog at this house in Caerphilly. The floral tributes have now gone, but Emma Whitfield's grief will never disappear. She's relived the day she lost her son many times. She'd let him out to play and he never came home. She was numb the moment she was told he had died.
I felt stupid because I couldn't cry. I had people crying around me and I couldn't cry because I couldn't believe it. And I just remember saying to myself, everyone's crying, why are you not? I couldn't get my head around it.
When the reality did start to sink in, her tears didn't stop, because Jack's left an empty space in her heart.
He just sit next to you and cuddle you, and
it must be so hard not having that anymore.
It's horrible. It's like I sit down in the evening and I got photos on my phone of him sitting in the chair and being there with the cats. And now I look at that chair and he's not there with the cats. And I don't think that's something I'll ever get my head around.
Amy Salter and Brandon Hayden were jailed in June for dangerous dog charges. The dog was in her house, but he owned it. They knew it was aggressive, and that stirred up strong feelings for Emma.
If there's something that describes being beyond angry, I'm probably there. I just don't understand how it came to this.
On the day of his sentencing, Brandon Hayden covered his face from the cameras and swore at the waiting media outside court.
Do you feel that Amy Salter and Brandon Hayden were in any way remorseful for what they've done?
No, not in the slightest. To this day, I've not received an apology. I've not even got the hint that they have any kind of remorse, even down to the day they were sentenced and in the dock blowing kisses and winking. Where's the remorse there? How could he be smiling while I'm sat watching what he's done, listening to what he had done, and her? They don't even seem to be in the slightest bit sorry.
This was Hayden kicking the dog in the days leading up to the attack. He'd had it for free after seeing an advert on social media. At the local shops, it bit Amy Salter herself and even knocked a child off their scooter. After pleading guilty to all charges, Salter was given 3 years behind bars. Hayden had 4.5.
Do you think he realises what this has all done to you as a mother and a family?
No. He's in prison for maybe 1.5 to 2 years if he's released early, and he gets to come back out and keep living his life. But mine, I don't have one anymore.
This was Hayden's dog that killed her son. Since Jack's death, the UK government say they've launched a responsible dog ownership group to see how they can reduce the number of dog attacks each year. But Emma wanted longer sentences for Salter and Hayden.
I was expecting more. Nothing they would have got would have been enough. But this was an insult.
What do you think needs to be done to strengthen the Dangerous Dogs Act?
I can't pick apart the law and say this needs doing, that needs doing, because I don't think there's a blanket approach. I just think it needs to be taken more seriously.
This is a scene that will stay with Emma for the rest of her life. The incident sent shockwaves through the local community. Jack was a well-liked, kind and popular pupil.
How much do you miss Jack?
I can't wake him up for school anymore. I can't wash his clothes anymore. I don't know how I keep going.
His beautiful smile lit up his funeral booklet. I don't think there was a dry eye in his funeral that day. How do you want him to be remembered?
Like that. His big smile and his teeth. That's my Jack.
Jack was also crazy about cars, and his funeral reflected that passion. His life may be over, but his mum's love will always go on. Hannah Thomas, ITV News in Caerphilly.
Hello, good evening. A row is intensifying tonight over plans to install new electricity pylons in parts of rural Wales. The pylons would connect a new wind farm in Powys to the national grid in Carmarthenshire. Developers want to increase the grid capacity in mid-Wales, but campaigners say pylons would have a big visual impact on the countryside. More than 100 people gathered at a public meeting this week to discuss the proposals. And our Rural Affairs correspondent Hannah Thomas is at a second public meeting in Llandovery tonight. Hannah.
Yes, thanks very much indeed, John. Well, as you can see, it is empty here at Llandovery Rugby Club at the moment, but that is all expected to change within the hour. There is expected to be people packed out to get their points across. And this all centres really on the fact that Wales does need an increase in national grid capacity. That's no secret. But there are landowners in parts of Powys all the way down here to Carmarthenshire that have been notified of plans for a network of new electricity pylons stretching for more than 60 miles through the Welsh countryside. And it's fair to say that some of them are not happy.
The Towy Valley is a special landscape area and a special area of conservation. From Drysloin Castle you can see the River Towy, one of the longest rivers in Wales. Not far from here, Anne Davis runs a dairy farm with her family.
Good girls.
But Anne fears that electricity pylons could spoil her view if they were to run through her land. But green energy has to be linked up somewhere.
Surely the electricity can be carried underground rather than overhead. We don't need pylons in an area of natural beauty that's got history and heritage. Every 5 miles we have a castle.
The pylons proposed would not be this tall. The developers of these plans say there are several different kinds of pylon carrying electricity, but some simply don't want any pylons near their houses at all.
I think the pylons are a relic from a post-Second World War industrial growth, and in this day and age when we're looking at combating climate change and the effects, that green energy should also be about protecting the biodiversity, the scenic landscapes.
So the grid connection's in that direction.
Roger is with Ross Evans from the Campaign for the Protection of Rural Wales. He's showing him where he thinks the pylon route could go if it went ahead.
We ourselves, CBRW, have been working with the National Grid in areas of Gwynedd to actually get existing cables buried, and we are talking about the big 50-metre pylons here. The National Grid have expressed a desire for all pylons in future to be buried, if they can. So I don't understand why this proposal now is springing up.
The proposal is from Bute Energy. They want to boost grid capacity in rural Wales.
Well, this is the existing electricity network near Pont Abraham. The pylons crisscross the Carmarthenshire countryside, and it's this existing network that developers Bute Energy want to tap into.
Aled Rowlands is from the company. He's at one of the sites where they're planning a wind farm. He's looking at the type of pylon they want to build in mid-Wales. He says they're essential for the national grid.
This grid is needed to bring renewable energy from where it's generated, mainly in the mountainous areas, into our towns, villages, homes and businesses, but it's also to give those rural areas a robust electricity system. So for future generations, when they need to charge electric vehicles or heat our houses using electrically powered heat pumps, that grid is there to support them.
These are examples of what the pylons could look like. They're around 27 metres high and could be constructed in a few years' time if they got the thumbs up. But in the Towy Valley, they want to preserve their piece of Wales. And for many, that means no pylons.
So Hannah, this public meeting is due to get underway in the next hour or so then?
Yes, it starts at 7 o'clock, and it's all been organised by the director of the Countryside Alliance in Wales, Rachel Evans. She joins me now. Rachel, come on, you're making a bit of a mountain out of a molehill, aren't you, here? Because Bute Energy haven't yet released their full plans. They haven't launched a consultation on this. It's a bit soon for a public meeting, isn't it?
Well, they've already started the ball rolling. They've been sending letters out to landowners and cold calling at the farm gate. So tonight's meeting is a response to the public because they want us to get together, and I genuinely hope that they will come here tonight with an open mind and to have a think about how we can actually move forward with providing Wales with renewable energy.
It is well documented that we need that renewable energy and we need sufficient grid capacity to take it. Something's got to move forward here.
Yes, but why should it need to be with these huge, large steel pylons that they're intent on putting through our valley? They are not pleasing to the eye. We have a huge concern about the fact that they are planning this in this area, whilst in other places, other companies are improving the landscape with visual improvement plans, taking down the pylons and burying them underground. And this is what we want Bute Energy to consider from the outset for this proposal.
It's probably going to be very costly, that. The other thing to consider with this is already we've got Plaid politicians intending to turn up here tonight, Plaid leader Adam Price, other Senedd politicians intending to make their presence known. Is it all getting a bit political too quick as well?
Every decision made about our countryside at the Senedd and Welsh Government is of course political, and we want to influence those policies now. And it's interesting that the Minister Julie James did say at the plenary session last week that it is Welsh Government's policy that they prefer for these cables to be buried underground where possible, not just in areas of outstanding natural beauty, but throughout the whole section. And this is what we will support the Minister with.
Is it NIMBYism? Do your members just don't want this in their backyard?
We have a cross-section of people who have booked places here tonight because we wanted to know how many we could get in the room, which is why we're here in Llandovery Rugby Club. So we have people from areas of outstanding natural beauty who come to this Towy Valley and indeed to the Radnor Forest to enjoy themselves, and they do not want to see these large metal frame pylons. Lots of people feel that they belong in the past. We are quite happy to move forward with renewable energy, but at what cost? You mentioned cost, but what about the cost to the people? To their health and well-being, opening their curtains in the morning, whether they live here or if they're on holiday here, and seeing these large metal masts in this beautiful valley. And also, you know, the cost as well to our tourism industry must not be ignored. Of course, there's an opportunity for farmers to diversify possibly once this particular line is in, but it doesn't mean that they have to put up with the pylons to do so. Let's seriously consider burying these cables as best we can.
In one word, are you going to campaign on this for the foreseeable future?
I'm going to take away messages from the public tonight because our ask is always measurable and achievable, and I will make my decision after tonight.
Thank you very much indeed, Rachel. Well, John, as you heard Rachel say there, Bute Energy will be launching that consultation in March, so I very much feel that this is the beginning and not the end of the story.
OK, Hannah Thomas in Llandovery. Thanks very much indeed.